Hey, what's going on guys, Chris here, welcome back to another Cyberpunk 2077 video, and today we're gonna go over a ton of secret changes and new items that were added with update 1.3. And as a matter of fact, even though this is technically speaking the biggest update yet, it actually adds quite a little bit extra on top, especially gameplay wise. If you want to get some new items, there's quite a number of these that have been added, including an exclusive first look at, well, the max stack that finally made it into the game as an acquirable item. As always, a thumbs up on the video would be super awesome, and let's jump right into it. Now recently there's been quite an extensive talk about fundamental changes that cdpr is supposedly doing at an engine level to get the game ready for probably upcoming content updates and possibly a next year expansion. And there's quite a number of quality of life changes that you can already see as soon as you start up the game, and the first one that I noticed in update 1.3 is the loading of save files, because now it has a pretty interesting animation. You will see that all of the other like save cards will kind of fade away with this pretty cool fade away animation, and then the last one is going to be the one that you pressed on, and it also seems to like do so for not just the main cards themselves but for the elements inside the cards too, including the title and some of the other information in there as well. Not like a big deal or anything, but it definitely adds that layer of quality that I think the game definitely deserves. But there's plenty of other quality of life changes in there that I'm happy to report have been implemented with update 1.3. And if you remember this correctly, previous to the current update, you weren't even capable of double jumping during phone conversations for some reason, especially during NCPD calls when you wanted to probably adjust or just, jump right into the combat during that NCPD call. Well, I'm happy to report that in the new update that is no longer the case, and you can freely use your double jump and adjust your positioning, even grab onto ledges and jump onto buildings during these conversations, which means you no longer have to wait for these conversations to end before you engage in combat. So all in all, I'm really happy that they finally removed that restriction. The next one is in regards to item dismantling. It seems that they have done a number of improvements to this UI menu screen right here, and it definitely seems to be a lot more responsive than ever before. Now another pretty neat feature, it's not that big, is also the fact that next to the cursor there's now a progress bar that will fill up when you do a certain action, especially when it comes to dismantling. I'm not sure if this was prior to update 1.3, I haven't seen this before, so totally let me know down in the comments if this was present before this new update came into effect. Now the next bit is going to be about the weather system. It seems that cdpr has made a number of changes to the weather transitioning, and now weather seem to cycle a lot sooner and a lot more frequently than in the previous updates. For example, you could totally be in the middle of the street and all of a sudden notice that there's a raining coming, clouds are forming, and the sky just becomes a lot darker. And the same goes with some of the other weather effects. It definitely seems that the transition is now way more abrupt, to the point that I might argue it's also a little bit jarring at times. Like some of these transitions are definitely a little bit too fast, so I think that it still needs a little bit of tweaking, but I'm at the end of the day glad that cdpr is considering, doing a little bit more with the weather and time cycle. Now this is all with some of the quality of life changes. Let's also talk about some of the new items, because I was surprised that there's actually a number of legendary crafting specs that were added with the new DLC jackets, and not just like the rare versions that you get straight from the missions. So this is especially true for the luminescent punk jacket and the other one that you get from Victor following his phone call with the new DLCs. You will get that rare variant in your inventory, but at the same time the game also gives you a crafting spec which lets you upgrade that all the way up to legendary quality. And not just that, the rare version can be crafted as many times as you want and pretty much just upgrade it to like legendary quality until you get the desirable mod slots and possibly the stats on them in case you want to min-max your build. And this is not just it with these two items right here. There's, as a matter of fact, at least a couple dozen of recolors for both of them that you will find scattered out in the world, either from NPCs, either from killing enemies and taking them from their bodies, or in random containers. So all in all, I think that they should have probably doubled down a little bit more on the DLC and kind of go over a lot more of these examples rather than only showcasing a couple of them like how they did in the previous stream. Now, there's a bunch of other items that have been silently added behind the scenes. Now, we did talk about the Optical Camo and the fact that its effects were updated back in update 1.2, and back then it actually worked, but you couldn't buy it from any NPC or from any Reaper doc. We thought that it would be a part of a DLC, but you could still get it with like a mod or with a cheat that would give you specific items. Well, I'm happy to report again that this has actually been added to the Reaper docs, and to be more specific, the one in Arroyo right here on this side of the map. And yeah, he now sells the legendary version of it. I'm pretty sure that there's other Reaper docs out there that will sell you like the epic and the rare version of this, but the legendary one lasts the longest. So the Optical Camo, this is going to grant you invisibility, in this case for 15 seconds with a 60-second cooldown, and you will have to go ahead and bind that to your menu wheel in the place of grenades if you want to use it actively. Now, the Optical Camo is by far one of the best cyberware implants in the game because it just gives you invisibility that completely messes up with the AI in this game. Like, nobody will be able to detect you as long as you don't stay in the same place. So you could go into the middle of the combat or go against a group of enemies, just pop the Optical Camo and take everybody down, and the other NPCs will not know where you are as long as you don't stay in the same place. This does mean though that if they see where you shoot from, or if you stay in that same position and don't move, they will shoot in the general direction of where you shot from at their teammates, so you might want to move around a little bit. At the same time, it also seems to be a pretty good way of getting rid of the police a little bit faster. It's not like getting rid of the police in this game is super difficult since the AI hasn't seen too many significant improvements, but it helps a lot if you're at 4 stars and you don't want to get like blasted by the turrets or by those annoying robots that can aim you from pretty far away. All in all, I'm a big fan of this one. And this, ladies and gents, brings us to probably one of the most iconic and coolest armor sets in the game that was never accessible the legit way until, well, update 1.3 dropped, and that is of course the max tech multi-layered armor, which was finally added in the container it was supposed to be since day one. So you actually get this from Judy's apartment after finishing all of her story and also romancing her and likely unlocking her apartment for later visits. In the middle room right here, you will notice that there's this box onto one of these drawers, and inside of it you will finally be able to access the max tech armor, which actually is formed out of 3 pieces, which is the chest, the helmet, and of course the cargo pants. And it looks really amazing. The first time I got to check this out, it actually spawned as an epic quality, but I was only level 40, so I'm pretty sure that if you do a little bit of save scamming, you're gonna be able to spawn it as a legendary quality and possibly even make it your main set. The only thing I kinda wish they also did with this, since it's so iconic and it's like one of the first sets that we saw in like the first trailer that dropped for Cyberpunk, is that they could have added a crafting spec for it as well. It would definitely make a lot of sense for that to happen, so that you can craft your legendary quality instead of relying to save scums and other tricks to get it in the first place. This is going to be especially useful for all of you console players out there who never got a chance to play it. Us PC players got it for about like 6 months at this point, since yeah, mods kinda enabled the possibility of just adding it straight into your inventory. But this is pretty much it with some of the undocumented changes that we've seen so far in the game. Now there's some other baby steps in there that have been made. We've seen quite a few of these with the AI, for example. Like NPCs have a couple of new behaviors that they hadn't before. Like for example, if you stay in front of a car or in front of traffic, yeah, these cars will now try to slightly avoid you and kinda go around you, or you know, just not hit you as easily as before. It also seems that when NPCs panic, they will now actually flee the scene, and you can cause a whole group of enemies or a large crowd to actually flee if you scare them with gunshots or with a few killings here and there, which I guess is an improvement on, you know, just squatting down and waiting for their death, but it's still a long shot from how proper AI should behave. Let me know down below if there's anything I missed. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.